We welcome you back into the Take the North podcast, along with Dan Wiederer from the Chicago Tribune. I am Mark Grote from Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Dan and I at Haugh today for this recording of the podcast. It is a Thursday while we are speaking right now. We just wrapped up day 2, or I should say the second practice, I guess technically day 3 of camp, if you want to invite or if you want to throw in the report day and all of that good stuff. So 2 full hour plus practices for the Bears. Mr. Wiederer, how are you, sir?
This is a race now. That's what Ben Johnson told us the other day. So we're off and running. We got out of the starting gates. We're racing now. Can't really see the finish line, obviously, at this point, but we're racing, and we're through 2 practices with a lot more to come with Grote on Friday. The public coming to join us.
Yes,
at Haugh.
I like to call them the townspeople. The townspeople will come from far and around the North Shore and from other locales. They will arrive here. They will be bussed around and they will sit in the stands. And it does change things actually a little bit for reporters. On days that fans are there, the media, unless something has changed, the media is allowed to tweet and report in real time. And that is because we're all here. And it wouldn't be fair if Bob in the stands can report something, which has happened, and the media cannot. So that kind of opens things up and makes these live days a little bit more interesting. And it's different, Dan. It's different. I did not have as much of a full taste of Bourbonnais as you did, but those crowds were like 10,000 people. These crowds, I mean, honestly, like, and this is not a shot at the Bears, it's kind of disappointing, the crowds out here in terms of the size, just relative to Bourbonnais. Like, it's not the same energy.
Relative.
It's a lot of fun, and it's cool that people are allowed on the campus here and at Bears headquarters. Everything the Bears do is good. It's not a shot at the Bears. It's just that Bourbonnais was better in terms of the fan accommodations or just the pure volume.
Because I was going to say, it's an exercise in scale here. You just had more room at Bourbonnais to put people, and so you have a smaller contingent coming out to these practices at Haugh. It does liven things up a little bit just to have fans out there, and that'll be a fun little touch on Friday, and then again on Saturday. Then they'll take Sunday off, and I think we're right back into pads potentially on Monday morning when we get out there. So that'll be when it really starts to get going out there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and you'll find out probably even listening to this podcast that there's just certain things that are really difficult to evaluate when the players aren't in pads. But we'll get to that. Let's get to it here, Dan. Let's start with Caleb Williams in his second year. It's been bumpy so far in 2 days for Caleb Williams. He was picked by Tremaine Edmonds yesterday in the first pass that he threw. I thought, generally speaking, he was shaky again on Thursday. He overthrew DeAndre Swift deep down the sideline. It was a broken play. It was a broken play. Right. So that's fair to point out, but he did overthrow him. They connected on a similar play during the season, and we did talk to Swift about that, and he said, they were close on this play, but it was an overthrow. The throw, and there's 2 more of the throws I want to talk about here, Dan. There was then a couple plays later, a short pass to DeAndre Swift where he threw, to the left, as Beyonce would say. Robbie Triano had to absolutely love that. Big Beyonce fan.
To the left. This throw's going to be low and outside to the left.
Write that down, Robbie. He threw behind Swift, and we were talking about this to the left stuff because
he talked about it.
Yeah, Caleb was very specific with us, and cheers to Caleb for being specific with us. That one of the things he struggled with in the offseason program was short throws to the left. That's why the Beyonce reference. And then he also, Dan, missed DJ Moore deep in 7-on-7. It was a close play, broken up by Tyreek Stevenson, who might have gotten a pass interference call. A flag was thrown, but we don't have the benefit of the refs getting on a microphone and telling us exactly what happened.
That was a PI for sure. Tyreek had a hand, a full fistful of DJ's jersey on that one. And so that was a defensive pass interference on that play. One of the things that's notable to me, and we'll get into this in various ways here throughout the podcast, is there's just less volume to these camp practices than there were 10 years ago. The new collective bargaining agreement has restricted the amount of time that they can be on the field. It was 90 minutes on Wednesday. It was 105 minutes on Thursday. And so when you're talking about 11-on-11 periods, you used to get, dozens during a Bourbonnais training camp practice back in the day. And now you're getting maybe 3, and they're just quick, maybe you get 5 or 6 plays and then you're onto the 2s. So there's just not a big enough sample size yet to start drawing massive conclusions. What we do want to do is be fair and assess Caleb for all the good plays he makes and some of the struggles that he's showing. And to your point, there's just been some erraticness the first couple days that's notable. There was a snap in 11-on-11 today that sailed over his right shoulder, and we don't have the benefit of talking to everybody. I don't know if that was a cadence issue. Was it just a mistimed thing from Drew Dahlman? But it's a wasted play, right? When the quarterback's got to go chase a ball over his shoulder and dive on it, and then they're on to the next play, it's a wasted rep. And so that's some of what you've heard from Ben Johnson, particularly as it pertained to Wednesday's moment, right? Like quote unquote moment, the moment where he pulled the first unit offense off the field and turned it over to the 2s because they were in 7-on-7 and couldn't get lined up consecutively for a play twice in a row. And it was just like, nope, on to the next group. Like, we don't have time to waste here. We should be further than this. And so like all of that speaks to just kind of the urgency that Ben expressed coming into camp and the precision needed to start to make progress. And they're going to have to show it little by little because there just isn't enough time to make up for the reps that are lost because of unnecessary sloppiness.
While we're on that, on the Wednesday day, where, as you just said, Ben Johnson, after the offense, Caleb Williams and the offense failing to get lined up properly on back-to-back plays, Ben Johnson shoots into the lineup, pulls the guys off the field. And today, Thursday, as we record this was the first time Ben Johnson spoke about that and really what went down, because we had zero clarity the day before. It's just the way it works. Ben Johnson only speaks every other day. Here is what Ben Johnson had to say about that moment.
I'm good. Like, it is what it is. Our guys, we got to end up executing, getting in and out of the huddle a certain way, and it wasn't that way, and so we'll be better today.
Is that what it was? Just getting in and out?
Yeah.
Is that on Caleb, or is that everybody?
It's everybody. It's everybody. We're learning. We're growing. There's some things from the springtime expected to carry over that was probably one we just don't have any tolerance for anymore. We got too far to go.
Do you find that they're very receptive in those moments too?
Yeah. Everyone, they know it's not good enough.
I just realized that I made a mistake, that I should not have given Ben Johnson multiple choice there. I should have stuck with, was it on Caleb? And I also said, or is it on everybody? But I guess what, Dan? He probably would have said everybody anyway, even if it is just on Caleb. I mean, this is one of the things that he was challenged to do this year, is to eliminate those issues. So I'm not saying here that Ben Johnson is being disingenuous, but I do wonder how much culpability yesterday or the Wednesday practice in that moment was on QB1, number 18, Caleb.
The quarterback has the steering wheel of the car, and like, you've got to get that figured out. And if it's sloppy on the first huddle break, then, the second huddle break better be very clean. And it wasn't. And Ben lost his temper. And as he said there, it's not good enough. And they know it's not good enough. And he's not just going to sit around and be tolerant of it, which is a departure from what I think we experienced last year, where it was, I think, too many people within the Bears organization, the coaching staff, front office, et cetera, just kind of thought, oh, we'll get this ironed out. We don't want to be too harsh too soon, and then miss some opportunities to create some habits, right? And that's what training camp's all about. It's creating habits. It's making growth. The Bears are going to have to get there little by little throughout this camp. And again, like, what I've loved about Ben stressing the urgency of this is that you can, and Cole Kmet said this on Wednesday, like, you can shrug past it and say it's day one, sloppiness is going to happen on day one, or you can say we're playing a game in 46 days and we got to get our asses ready to play a game in 46 days, and so let's be very, very mindful and intentional about doing things right. And when we don't do them right, let there be some consequence to it. Let it sting, and let there be some aggravation that conveys the message that we got to get going. And I thought that Ben did that appropriately in the moment. I think he explained it well in that soundbite you just played. And now the mission obviously is to make moments like that very less frequent throughout the duration of camp.
Yeah, I mean, he was pissed because what he was starting to see in the OTAs did not carry over to the training camp, and it felt like, again, in the moment, that felt like for Ben Johnson a setback. Like, we had that part down, kind of. Let's not let this happen again. So that's that. Yeah, and I agree too that, like, I like that Ben Johnson continues to be himself and to be that guy. And I think that eventually we, as in the media, we're going to track this stuff, but it'll eventually become a little bit more normal and not feel so novel to us, even though we're going to point it out if we see a coach getting in a player's face. There was another player missing today, key player. We'll get into all the injuries and the bumps and bruises and things like that. But again, as we're recording on this Thursday, Bears second-round rookie wide receiver Luther Burden, who one would suspect should be expected to be a big part of this team this year, has missed both of the training camp practices so far. 0-2. Ben Johnson shared with us on Thursday that Burden is still dealing with that soft tissue issue from the offseason program. Johnson says that he is hopeful that Burden will miss just a few days. He used the word few, as in not a long-term injury. Dan, what do you think about what has been going on with Luther Burden and the fact that nothing is going on with Luther Burden?
That's it. And it traces back to the spring. He missed all of organized team activities on the field. He missed all of minicamp on the field. Luther Burden is trying to play catch up, and now we're 2 camp practices behind. The Bears were confident that he would show up at camp in shape and ready to go, so much so that they didn't use the oft-used PUP designation to start camp, to just give them a little wiggle room just in case, right, that this was an injury that lingers for the duration of the summer. So they felt like he was good to go, and he hasn't been good to go. And so now I think you're going to feel some frustration from the coaching staff that he hasn't been out there. The Bears expressed all of this, I guess, disbelief and excitement in April. I can't believe he was there for us at 39. And then there were people around the league that said the reason he's there for you at 39 is because there's questions about his work habits. Does he have an NFL caliber practice mentality? Does he have NFL caliber team first mentality? And so the only way that Luther Burden can say yes to those questions is to be on the practice field and proving it to his teammates, proving it to his coaches, and stringing together weeks upon weeks of good practices that not only allow him to kind of get off the ground here, but to have a significant role in an offense that your head coach and play caller has told you is coming together. Like, we're trying to figure out in this moment, what does the Bears offense do well and who fits what roles? When you're not on the practice field, they have no idea where you fit. And so then that's by nature going to reduce your involvement in the early going of when you get back out on the field. And then you've got to figure out how to make up for lost time. So this is not nothing. And Luther Burden, you would hope, at the minimum, when we get back after the weekend break, is on the practice field when we start on Monday. But in that case, you're not going to throw him into full pads right away, I don't think, because you need to ramp him up, right? So again, you see the ripple effect of all this.
Yeah, and I think that, Ben Johnson was, at the end of the offseason program, for lack of a better way of describing it, he was kind of cold about Luther Burden, as in, look, this is paraphrasing, he's injured and, he needs to be here and hopefully he'll be here. But there was that stern message at the end of the OTAs. And then today, Thursday, Ben Johnson, he said that he's going to be out for a few days. He did say that he's been, great at studying and he's been a great student and all that, but did at the end of it say there is no substitute though for being on the field and all of that kind of stuff. So it was like he softened it a little bit, Ben Johnson, but then he circled back around, and that was his way of saying this guy needs to be on the field.
Yeah, be as good a student as you want. They don't give paper tests in the NFL, right? They give live action 60-minute get on the field and prove what you're made of tests when the regular season arrives. And so, I think it's overdue at this point, and Burden's going to have to not only deal with whatever injury he's dealing with, not only deal with what the coaching staff has kind of felt over these last couple of months, but he's going to start to draw some outside criticism that is going to test him as a rookie to kind of acclimate to this new world in Chicago as a Bears receiver for a team that's trying to win now. And so he better be ready for all that's coming his way.
No doubt. And Dan and I will continue to keep an eye on it, as he and I will be at training camp for all these training camp practices and bringing you all the news, information, and entertainment here from Haugh on the Take the North podcast. One thing that a lot of people have been asking me about, Dan, and we had the chance to ask people about that today, and that is the Bears running game. DeAndre Swift was front and center today in the media room. Ben Johnson was asked about the Bears running game. My summation, especially of Ben Johnson on the Bears running game, is they're not ready to answer questions about the Bears running game. Of course, they have an idea in their minds of how they want it to go, but it's been kind of all over the board without pads, and you really need the pads to see what, like, for the blocking part, for the running part, all of that. DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson, Kyle Monungai, by the way, had a nice run. I don't know what was it, about a 15, 20-yard run, or would have been about that, Dan, for Kyle Monungai today in the practice. So
every run in training camp is a touchdown, right?
Well, that's why
that's what happens.
I'm like, was it a great run? You just never really know if a guy, but it looked like he made a nice play. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But when I say they're disorganized, they're just not ready to tell us exactly how this is going to go, how it's going to line up for the running backs. And I think part of it, Dan, honestly, it goes back to this was not necessarily the running back room that Ben Johnson was expecting. I mean, I think this goes back that they were expecting to draft a running back. So that doesn't mean they're like out on these guys, but it just does mean, to me, they're not exactly sure how it's all going to look, how it's all going to line up, or even if the running backs room is completely set heading into the regular season and the preseason game.
I think it is set, and I think there's some layers to this where you've got kind of a situation where you're trying to figure out, as Ben said the other day, kind of what fits you best. And in order to find out what fits you best, you're trying to try out a bunch of stuff. And what I heard him say on Thursday morning was there's a volume to this that the coaches have to figure out how much is too much for everybody, particularly the offensive line, right? Like, how much can we pour into this running game and say, like, we want to try this, we want to give different looks, we want to keep the defense off balance, but now we've put so much in that the offense can't keep it all straight and it gets a little bit discombobulated. I love hearing from DeAndre Swift. I know he's a quieter guy. I know he's a low-key guy, but I enjoy the conversations with DeAndre because I think he's to the point. I think he's engaged. And I think what he was sort of expressing today is that, look, I look out there and I see an upgraded interior of my offensive line, and I see something that's sort of similar to what I saw in Philadelphia in 2023 when I had a high level of success. And I'm looking forward, when the pads come on, to seeing how they function together. How do they work combo blocks? How do they, get to the next level? How do I time things with the way that they're moving? And so I think there's a lot to figure out when we get into week 2, when we get into week 3 at training camp, and the Bears seem eager to do it. Swift is going to be your lead back until further notice. I think he is very, very determined to have a productive year. Again, we have pointed out excessively that he had a 3.8 yards per carry average last year. Not good enough. He was kind enough to point out today that he still finished the season with the most yards from scrimmage he's ever had in his career, more than 1,300, right? So it wasn't like this terrible year, and he hit some home runs last year. And, I think immediately to the one in Washington that put the Bears in position to stage a rousing comeback against the Commanders. That's in there for him. And I think the Bears are looking forward to unlocking DeAndre Swift. They're looking forward to see how Roschon and Monungai kind of fit behind him. And that's all going to start to take more shape here next week. And I think everybody's eager to see it.
Yeah, I mean, he and he and Caleb Williams hooked up on one of the best plays of the year offensively. It was a broken play, but there was DeAndre Swift down the sideline and like a jump out of your seat moment, for sure. But I did take note of that too. I mean, that he mentioned that he had that many yards from scrimmage, but he also started it by saying, I get why people are saying it was a rough year. He said to start off with, we only won 5 games. So you're going to hear that from every player.
Yep.
But, and I'll say it again too. I feel like we gave other players like Caleb Williams more excuses because of the coaching staff.
And the line.
DeAndre Swift was a victim. And the line too. Thank you. DeAndre Swift was a victim of this as well. And I know people don't want to hear that. Running backs are running backs. He's a veteran running back, and he wasn't the shiny name coming in here. But I think that has to be taken into account, that give a little bit of room for leeway and excuse for the run for DeAndre Swift because of the coaching staff last year as well.
It was our friend Courtney Cronin who asked him about the upgrades to the offensive line today and said, when you look up front and you see Tooney and Dahlman and Jonah, and DeAndre just in his very DeAndre way leaned to the microphone and said, can't wait. Can't wait. And he
Yeah.
said it so quietly that I don't think Courtney could hear him the first time he said it. So he said it again, and then he had to translate what "can't wait" means and said, "I'm excited." You know? And so, like, you get that sense from him that enthusiasm is growing, that he senses there's going to be opportunity running behind those guys.
Yeah, and you're right. It was a good chat with DeAndre Swift, and he's very quiet, very soft spoken. He'll answer in a few words, but he's one of these guys who, and I figured that out today too. Here in his second year, he's just an honest dude. You know,
Agreed.
he's not like a bad guy. Not standoffish.
Yeah, not at all.
He's private. He's quiet, and yeah, but he, in between it all, like there's no fluff. He's a pretty honest dude. But what I was going to say is, I don't know, Dan, I think you were probably just as disappointed as I was. DeAndre Swift came through that door and stepped up to the mic when it was supposed to be our guy, DJ. And DeAndre Swift, I should say, came in. It was supposed to be DJ Moore. And we were told that he was not pleased with Dan and I, so he didn't talk. No, apparently he had some, like, the family thing he had to tend to. And so he was apologetic, like apparently nothing like an emergency or anything reportable. And he is expected to speak on Friday. But I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed that we didn't get to fire off some good questions to the Bears top receiver.
It doesn't please me, but it's good to see.
Oh, by the way, the word you and I were talking off the air about what did I ask him that got him going on me? And I asked him if it was gratifying, how gratifying it is when you get that separation. And he said, "What?" And then I said, "Does it please you?" And then he gave me a little courtesy laugh. Actually, it was a pretty real laugh for DJ Moore, because he doesn't exactly like burst out in laughter a whole lot.
So we're gonna try to press DJ's buttons a little bit on Friday when we get him at Haugh Hall, have a little fun and see if we can get there. Yeah, you're right. Like some days you're in the media room at Haugh Hall, and I was joking with people back in our cubicles that sometimes you're just turning the crank of the jack in the box, and then it's like, oh, hey, it's DeAndre Swift. we weren't expecting that. We thought this was going to be the top receiver, and it's DeAndre Swift. But I don't reject DeAndre Swift ever, as you've heard me say many times in this podcast. I enjoy the back and forth. It's a fun conversation. It's I like that dude, and I'm hopeful for him that he gets the opportunity that he thinks he's got this year.
Speaking of another likable human being out here at Haugh Hall, and I always give this disclaimer: this is sometimes we have to separate our critiques of ownership and George McCaskey, because Dan and I have both given them, and we'll also continue to give them when ownership is involved. And if we have to criticize George McCaskey, we will. But George McCaskey is just such a pleasant, lovely fellow to chat with. As practice ended today, as I was walking from field 2, as I started to get closer to the main entrance of Haugh Hall, I see two people standing and chatting. One of those was the owner of the Bears, George McCaskey. The other was my co-host on the Take the North podcast, Dan Wiederer. And all I could think of is, oh, I bet there's a doozy of a conversation going on right now.
To be a fly on the wall of that one, right, Grote? It really wasn't as much of a doozy as you think. So here's what happens, right? Like, we know the practice schedule. We know the end time. So I knew that 10:15 was the end of the road today. Once the number one offense finished that last drill, I was like, I'm going to start to make my way over toward the building. I can watch the last segment of the twos over here from the sideline on field 1, still see field 2, and just be ahead of the game, beat the Stampede back to the meeting room, maybe be in position in case they get the interview started quickly. And so then George approached me, pointed over at all of you guys still sitting in the bleachers on the south end of field 2, and said, I'm just curious what story you're getting over here that no one else is getting over there. And so I had to be very honest. I said, George, there's no story over here. I'm just trying to get out of practice a little quicker than everybody else here. Maybe a testament to my day 2 work ethic at camp.
You should have been like, George, what do you got for me, man? I'm over here. I'm loitering in your territory. What do you got, man? You got a stadium?
So eventually we got around to the topic of how different camp is than it used to be in Bourbonnais. We were talking about how, again, like you could learn a lot in a day at camp. You know, even if it was day 2 in Bourbonnais, you'd get enough on-field work where you felt like you were learning more about the football team. I don't get that sense here over the last couple of years because these practices are so short. I mean, Grote, like you look down at your watch and you're like, how is it over already? Right?
I know.
Like, where there were times, 7-8 years ago, you look down at your watch and you'd be like, how much longer do we have? Like we've been out here forever.
Yeah. Do I need to put a second layer of sunscreen on? I've not done the double layer yet.
And so George was very, very diplomatic in saying, look, the sports science has told us that the ramp up period is helping. And I said, I get all that. but like, back in the day, you used to learn a lot more about the football team when they're out there. And then he ultimately came around and said, those were the days. I miss those days. And I think we do it. The last little nugget that I got from George is that he will be in attendance on Sunday at Guaranteed Rate Field for Cubs Sox. So you can look for the chairman of the Bears, who is a very, very loyal Cubs fan, to be in enemy territory down there on the south side, rooting for the North Siders to try to get themselves back on top of this division.
The last thing I'll say about that, and George McCaskey, the last time I had one of those great George McCaskey conversations, we talked about what, as it turns out, he and I have a mutual love for a movie, something that I didn't necessarily suspect, but one of his favorite movies and one of my favorite movies is a Steve Martin classic called The Jerk. Have you ever seen The Jerk? It's so
a long
good.
time ago. That's like a mid 80s.
Yeah. I mean, maybe even early.
I was gonna say like 83, maybe, if I was just guessing.
No, maybe more mid 80s. I'd have to look it up.
Maybe earlier. Yeah, that's long ago. But yeah, no, like you can have some fun conversations with George. He's pleasant to talk to, and I did appreciate that he had the audacity to call me out for being kind of a lone wolf by myself on the sideline of field one for 4 minutes while Case Keenum and Tyson Bagent were taking practice across the finish line.
Dan was cheating, trying to get in ahead of everybody else.
Well, yesterday, if you recall, on Wednesday, Dennis Allen, like practice ended, and Dennis Allen, it was like he vaporized to the podium. It was like, hey, how are you here already? Like, I don't know how you got here so fast.
Maybe it's in his contract. He doesn't do the meet at the 50-yard line meetings on days that he has to talk. I don't know.
So you kind of got to be on your toes. You got to be ready for a lot of things out there.
Last thing that I have here is we had some fun yesterday in the media room and with all of our respective outlets, some great content from Ben Johnson and some of the players about the fact that the defense had to do up downs. And I should say Dennis Allen, not Ben Johnson, because it was just the defense that had to partake in this yesterday. So we had some fun with it yesterday, and no up downs today, Thursday. But Kevin Byard had just a bunch of really good and pretty amusing stuff about Dennis Allen doing the up downs on the first day of training camp. Here's Byard.
It was different. It kind of took me back to like high school. It almost kind of felt like punishment a little bit, but no, it's special to me just because of, I think, the way DA kind of, puts it to us is like, you got to pay the toll. It's a buy-in, what I mean? It's almost like an initiation. And it's special. We had a guy, Alex Cooks, who actually reported here, got released, and actually they signed him in, I think yesterday. He flew back into town, and to start practice, we all circled around him, and he did his up downs. Kind of felt bad watching him do it by himself, but at the same time, it's just like, that's just one of those deals, like the initiation of his defense. Like, and then once he finished, everybody was like, welcome to the defense, and got on with practice. So it's funny to me because he was saying the same thing, like if we get to week 15 and we sign a guy, he's going to do 15 up downs. So that's going to be 40 up downs, which is going to be tough, but no, man, that's just what it is, man. I think that's the type of family atmosphere that DA is creating for this defense.
So it's 40 up downs?
40. Yes, 40. 40 for sure.
Camp, like no more up downs?
Yeah, no, once you did them, you're good. Yeah, you're good. Yeah. Cheap toll. Cheap. Please. I don't care if you're year 10 or year 1. That thing is real, for sure. And it's funny because in the meeting, we watched the film yesterday, but because they filmed it. So y'all know Big Bill's like 340. I ain't trying to joke with Big Bill's my dog, but we got to like 20, bro. He wasn't even getting off the ground at that point. He was just laying on his stomach, picking his arms up. He was doing, it was funny. It was hilarious.
Kevin Byard continues to be a treat, and that was the voice of Dan Wiederer, who said, "What was your line? Cheap toll?
Cheap toll, yeah, it was a toll for the defense, right? But it's a one-time cover charge for them. It's just 40, and then you're in for good. It seems like if you're really, really emphatic about setting a tone, you do it for the entire first week of camp, right? Like you make the guys pay several tolls before they're initiated. 40 and you're done. I mean, and Kevin kind of looked at me like, yeah, man, like hey, why don't you come out here in the midway here and show me your 40 downs before we get moving, and I might have to do that just to ingratiate myself to what's happening.
I am going to push this narrative. I am going to instigate this and antagonize this situation, and you're eventually going to be doing up downs, and maybe even throwing a few of Tyson Bagent's burpees.
Right on this camera. Maybe you can just be talking, and I'll just be on camera doing the up downs in the background, and we'll do it. We'll. I ain't scared.
This is amazing. So the up down theme continues. I just remembered too a couple more injury notes too here, Dan, before we get out of here. And I'm gonna give you a chance if you got other stuff too that we want to talk about. But we got to mention that second round rookie defensive lineman Shamar Turner missed practice Thursday with an ankle injury. This one scared me a bit because I don't know if this means anything, but they did say the severity of it they don't know yet. So maybe they're just being very careful before they say anything to us. But that did freak me out a little bit. Fifth round rookie Zay Frazier missed practice for personal reasons.
Correct. Yeah. And so Turner, we'll keep an eye on. It's my understanding that it's a sprain, and then we'll see the severity of the sprain here in the days ahead and how quickly he gets back out there. I will say with Jalen Johnson out, Nishan Wright continues to take those reps with the first unit defense at cornerback, and Kevin Byard was very glowing in his praise of how Nishan Wright has done since the spring in that role, and sort of understanding what defensive backs coach L. Harris is asking, and being one of those guys that can take the reins and execute it pretty quickly. So that's a name to keep an eye on as the preseason moves along, just as a guy that seems like he can win a job as a depth piece in that secondary. And then obviously in case of emergency, break glass, right? We'll see when Jalen's back out on the field and how that secondary comes together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And as of Thursday, two very similar. Well, not exactly the same as far as the left tackle rotation is concerned. The primary left tackle on Thursday was Karan Amagaji with the first stringers. And I should actually back up. Ozzie Trapillo with the second stringers, but also again, for the second straight day, when the Bears offense goes out there to line up before they do anything else, they go up against air, full 11 guys. Braxton Jones, now back-to-back days, has been what they've showed at left tackle. Don't know if it means anything, but that is again exactly what it was.
Yeah, he's getting his sort of, it's a little bit more than walkthrough, but it's basically walkthrough in those reps, and we'll see where that all leads. Back to the topic of up downs. Nobody does up and down like the Bears, right? Like they have mastered up and down over the years, and so hopefully there can be more up than down.
I was gonna say, I don't know about up down. Where's the up and the downs? I mean,
2018, we talk about it all the time.
Oh,
Jump in this cold time machine. We'll go back to that up period, and then it's
by the way
6 years of down.
Was Artie Burns on the Bears roster in 2018?
It's a great question. He was on the Bears roster at some point. I don't think 2018. I feel like it was after that. Didn't he just suffer another bad injury?
Yeah. It's just so fun. Like Kevin Fishbane, Kevin Fishbane, Rando.
Oh, yeah. I do know him. Yeah, just met him this week.
He's so random. He brought up Artie Burns. He's like, "Hey, Grote, Artie Burns. What do you think of Artie Burns?"
That is a hell of a Kevin Fishbane impersonation.
I didn't even know I had it in me.
You nailed that. See, man, we got to get one of these shows to just be all impressions all the time. That was really, really good.
Thank you.
That was low-key fish in the back corner of the room, and you took it right to that spot.
You could see that inquisitive sort of
the mannerisms and the voice inflection.
The amused look on his face. Like,
yeah.
His business is so fishy. But yeah, Artie Burns' name. It took me a second. Like, I was like, Artie. Oh yeah, the old core. I think he was Paul. I think Artie Burns was Paul.
He was long. Yeah, he was coming off injury, and then he got hurt again, and now he's hurt again. And speaking of hurt, I think Justin Fields had a toe injury in New York today.
Oh my God! The early reports was that he was carted off the field, but apparently it's a dislocated toe.
Ouch!
And I haven't heard how long. Of course, everybody just snap that thing when you hear dislocate, snap that puppy back in place. But my God, man, I don't want bad things to happen to Justin Fields. I feel like being in New York for playing for the Jets is already a bad sentence for him. Just knowing the way things go there, we can't talk much here, but I hope that Justin Fields is okay. I want to, look, I don't think that Justin Fields is ever going to be a great quarterback in the NFL, but I certainly support him and want him to succeed. And I think everybody in Chicago wants that guy to succeed.
Likewise, yeah, and you want to see the opportunity, be fully realized there.
Dan, is there anything else that we need to point out here on this here version of Take the North?
No, we're 2 days into training camp and we're still rolling. We're still humming along, up downs or not.
Up downs all around. We got you covered here. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to the Take the North podcast. For Dan Wiederer of the Chicago Tribune and frequent score contributor. Also, we've had today filling in for us the tree. The tree is in the house today. Robbie Triano, our executive producer today, because Adam Studzinski decided that he needed to go to Las Vegas for his bachelor party.
Uh-oh.
I can't even imagine what's going on there. A lot of drinking, a lot of video games probably being played, and, you know, just the whole Studzinski lifestyle.
It's minus 180 that Studzinski makes it back. So we'll see.
I thought he was like, had a sort of so long suckers attitude. Hey, Robbie Triano will be with you guys. I'm going on my honeymoon. I'll be back next week. So long, suckers.
Yep, that's it. That's the last we see of him.
Good luck with your little Bears show. Thanks again to everybody listening and watching the Take the North podcast. I am Mark Grote. We'll talk to you later.
Great talk. See you out there.